Hi, I'm Kelsey, and this is Ask a Coach, where you get to write into me, certified coach, and ask whatever questions that you want, just about general things, my thoughts on certain topics, or anything that you want to get coaching on. You can write that in, and I will answer them here. So, we've got 3 questions we're going to do today. So, why don't we just get started? Okay, so question number 1, and it's a really great question. How can I respond to something negative my partner says about themselves? Speaking positively only seems to make the situation worse. They double down on the negative thought, and I feel helpless. So the first thing that I want you to do when this happens is notice what comes up for you when you see that your partner is really upset or they're being really hard on themselves, they're saying negative things about themselves. What comes up for you? I'll tell you what comes up for me is my instinct is to go to fix it mode. What can I do? What can I say to change how my partner feels? So we need to remember we don't control how other people feel. So like trying to release that need to fix, right? So that's like the first thing that I want you to pay attention to. So here's something that you can say when those moments come up, okay? You can say something along the lines of, I'm really sorry that you feel this way right now. I just want you to know that I love you unconditionally. And is there anything that I can do for you right now that would help? So this is a way where we are not going into fix-it mode, but we are asking our partner what they need, open communication, and if they respond with something that we want to do and we can do for them, then sure, you can do that. And it's also just a way of avoiding, let me explain, like something that I used to do a lot is I would assume that when my partner is upset, they want the same thing that I want when I'm upset, right? So what I want when I'm upset is like, I want to be held close. I want to be told, I love you. I want to be kind of taken care of. That's not how everyone is. And I kind of had to come to terms with that. Sometimes some people just need space. And so if that is your partner, again, pay attention to what comes up for you. What do you make that mean that they want some space? But this is a way for you to not necessarily go like all in, try and be super positive, try and change like their thought about themselves. It kind of validates, I understand where you're at, but I do want you to know that like you mean so much to me and I love you. That's not how I feel about you. The other thing is that sometimes you can kind of try and plan ahead or sort of retroactively. Like the next time you have a moment with your partner where things aren't so emotionally heavy, you could say to them, hey, is there anything that I can do for you when you are in those moods or when you're having those experiences? I just want to do my best to help, and just like opening up a communication line. Now, sometimes some people have never thought about what they need when they're upset. So if your partner is someone who hasn't really considered that, you can ask them questions. You could ask, in those moments, do you want space? Do you want me to stay with you and just be quiet? Do you want me to give advice, or do you want me to just sit and listen? Do you want me to validate like what would feel good for you? And then you can also tell them the same. You can open up that line of conversation beforehand when things aren't so muddled, because I know for me, when I'm really in it emotionally, I have a hard time kind of expressing what it is that I feel like I need or want from my partner, even if they're asking me. So being able to open up that dialogue separately from the actual moment that it's happening. I also just want you to remember that all of human experience is going to be 50-50, right? What I mean by this is that we're all going to have equal parts negative and positive emotions in our lives. And that's true of all people. So I teach this to my clients, and it's important for us to internalize that for ourselves so we can say, oh, I'm having anxiety, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything's gone wrong. It's okay that I'm feeling this way. I won't always feel this way, all of that. But it's also important for looking at other people that we care about and saying it's okay if they're having a moment where they're not feeling good about themselves, or they're not feeling confident, or they're feeling sad. That's a normal human experience, which doesn't mean you can't then say, how can I help? Is there anything I can do for you? I love you. You know, you can still do all those things, but being able to recognize that those experiences don't mean anything's going wrong can be a way of pulling yourself out of fix-it mode, like we talked about. This is not easy stuff, you know. It really takes a lot of mind management, and it takes practice, and I want you to know that you're doing a good job. Even just asking yourself these questions and reaching out to try and get help with them, it's so good. And it really, like, be able to try and give yourself credit as a partner that these things matter to you and that you want to try and work on them. So you're doing a great job. Thank you so much for writing in your question.
Question number 2 is, what's your view on the statement, watching porn is the same as cheating?
So what's my view on it? Well, my view in my own personal experience is that I wouldn't agree with that statement. I think that sexuality is a very, like, fluid and vulnerable thing. And for you to be able to try and share your experience with your partner can be a really valuable experience if you're someone who chooses to watch pornography. And I will say there's probably a larger conversation to be had about how to engage with pornography and the people in those videos in an ethical way, and, like, make sure that you know, those people are being paid for what they're doing, and all of that. But I'm not going to get into that, and I don't know that I feel confident about my ability to talk on that subject, but I think that it's worth looking into. But I think that a part of the answer to this question is about the level at which we feel we have control or possession over a partner, you know? And I think that there is a point where if you say watching something like porn is the same as sort of cheating or going against this agreement that we made to be monogamous, I just worry that that would be a situation that could create a lot of shame, and shame creates a lot of hiding and leads to less communication. So what I would say, just with the idea in mind of someone who does sort of have this feeling but is not sure about whether they should or shouldn't, or whether they do want it to feel this way or they don't, to ask them, what does that mean? Like, obviously they would make it mean that if their partner is watching pornography, that means cheating. But, like, unpacking that more, like, watching porn means what? They aren't attracted to you? Does it mean to you that they aren't invested in the relationship? Like, because it's important to break down what this is actually meaning to that individual in that case. And is it helping or hurting their relationship? Is it helping or hurting their own just like general experience, right? So I think that if I was to work with a client on this question, we would really have to go deep on their personal experience of this thought. But those are my general thoughts on that question. Thank you so much for writing it in. It's interesting to think about. Okay, last question. Question number 3 is, what do you think of interfaith marriages? So, personally, to answer in a general sense, I haven't really thought about it all that much just because it isn't really my experience. But I do think it's a really interesting question, and I can imagine a lot of different things would come up potentially for certain individuals who are in that type of relationship, an interfaith marriage or relationship. I think that perhaps one tool that might be good, which is good in all relationships really, is understanding what your manual is for your partner. And what that means is a manual is like something, like a list of things we think another person should do, be, or say, right? And if they did those things, then we could be happy, right? So when our partner doesn't line up with our manual, then we think we are unhappy because they're making us unhappy by not following our manual, right? And if you've followed what I teach for a while, you'll know that I don't believe that's true. Our thoughts are what create our feelings, and so another person can't create that in you. It's what do you think about them not following A, B, or C on your manual, right? So I think that as long as you had open communication and vulnerability with each other, and you didn't have the mindset of trying to change each other, I don't see why something like an interfaith marriage wouldn't be really cool, you know? In fact, I think that there are so many ways that you could learn from each other and expand your viewpoint. So I think it really just depends on the individual and what people are looking for in their relationships. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my general thought on it. But if you have any other questions later on that are more specific, like I don't know if this is your experience, please go ahead and let me know, and I can give you my thoughts on like a more specific situation. I'd be happy to do that and explore that with you, because I do think this is an interesting idea. So thank you so much for writing that in. All right, well, that's it this week for Ask a Coach. I'm still kind of in the process of figuring out how I'm going to be doing this in the future. I used to do them in my stories. Now I'm kind of liking the idea of doing a video, putting that in my IGTV and on YouTube. But I'm also hoping to eventually get more videos like this up on my Patreon. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. If you do have any questions that you want to ask, you can actually always email them to me. That is at coachingwithkelseytabbert@gmail.com, and I'll put all of that in the final slide of the video. But thank you so much for watching and being here and asking questions. I just appreciate it so much, and it's so fun to be able to like engage with all of you on these topics. So, all right, well, I will see you again hopefully next week with another Ask a Coach video, but definitely more videos to come. All right, see ya.